Masha purred with immense contentment and curled into a tight, furry little orange ball. The greenhouse was warm and toasty, even though it was somewhat nippy outside. The clear greenhouse plastic whipped and slapped against the door. Masha was jumping over little puddles of rich cream. Sometimes she stopped to lick them and smacking loudly as little droplets of cream dangled from the edges of her whiskers. She had the best cat dreams, and as someone who needed at least 15 hours of cat naps, her dream world was fuller than most creatures at Jellicles farm. Someone dropped her with her siblings at the farm 12 years ago. She was only a few weeks old. Her eyes were open but were still blue. With time, they will have turned a beautiful hazel with tints of yellow. She did not remember the people who dumped her and her siblings, but she did remember that she, as well as her siblings, were left in a basket, lined with a blanket with stale cake crumbs strewn all over them. Her whiskers were brittle and crumbled when she tried to groom herself. The tip of her tail was broken and she was covered with fleas. All 5 kittens were left under a broken ledge by the farm shed. It was a cold and rainy night. How they shivered. A family of skunks came to see them, and Masha remembered their beautiful, rich coats. How she envied their warm coats. The Guerlains were an old family whose ancestors, as far away as 7 generations, have resided at the fields that were now Jellicles farm. Descendants of Pepe Guerlain, the first papa of all the skunks in the area, was known to be a dour and strict patriarch. All of his grandchildren and their offsprings were now spread all around the area. The 3 Guerlain sisters, Chamade, Jiki, and Shalimar, lived at Jellicles farm, and they shared a den during their temporary hibernation every winter, even though they are normally solitary beings. This state, called torpor, was a time of bonding for them, as skunks tend to lower their metabolism and body temperature during winter when food was scarce. They huddle together, sharing body warmth and living off their bodies' stored fat. They drift in and out of torpor to venture out and get a small, quick meal to last them through the rest of winter. They always emerged hungry and ate whatever they found, but that cold winter night when they found the heap of shivering kittens, something came over Shalimar Guerlain. "They are tiny and wet," Shalimar whispered to Chamade and Jiki. "Kittens, but they will have to do." Jiki spat out a piece of bark that she had been chewing to keep her hunger at bay. Shalimar circled the kittens and stared deeply. "I think one of them is dead already." She reached out and plucked out an off-white kitten whose head was dangling in the most pitiful way. "The cold? It will do them in." Jiki sniffed the dead kitten. "But the kitten is still warm. The others must have tried to keep her warm." Shalimar was fascinated. She was the youngest of the 3, and the mewling of the kittens stirred something deep inside of her. "She should have been a skunk. We are better at keeping each other warm in winter than these kittens," Jiki giggled. Masha doesn't remember a lot, but she was awake while the others were sleeping or unconscious from the sheer hunger and cold. She blinked her blue eyes. A tear must have ballooned. Now, dear, don't be sad." Shalimar tried to flick the tear away, but only ended up scratching Masha. Masha hissed in response as though by instinct. Shalimar withdrew her claw, hurt and confused. Jiki slapped Shalimar with her furry paw. "Don't play with your food, sis." She laughed, but was only half joking. "We just had acorns from the stash." "Surely you are not thinking of eating them," Shalimar gasped. "Oh, look, the bleeding heart is staining your stripes again," Jiki teased Shalimar. Shalimar took a swipe at Jiki, and soon they were both rolling in the mud as the raindrops pelleted their thick fur, even though both of them could feel each other's bones underneath. The fat will come back in spring, but now they must conserve their energy. Panting and huffing, they stopped their rustling to take a break. "Enough," Chamade growled. She was the eldest of the 3 and often played the mother to Jiki and Shalimar. "Enough," she repeated herself once more. "We are skunks. We are descendants of Pepe Guerlain. May his name always be fragrant. You girls should act in a manner that is a credit to our kind." Chamade turned around and considered the kittens. She knew what must be done. The sisters had just fed and they did not need to feed again for a while. During their short hibernations, their metabolism drops and their food needs weren't as urgent as when the weather was warmer. "We will take them to Elder Mother. She will know what to do," Sinead proclaimed. That's how Masha and her siblings ended up at the Elder Mother's front porch. Somehow, and only in a matter of a few weeks, the entire clan was nursed back to health. Even the little white one that the Gurlan sisters declared dead. It was a good thing they didn't leave little Natalia behind. Elder Mother tried to find all of them homes, and she even kept the oldest one, who was a ginger too, for herself. She wanted Masha to be with the ginger Tom for company, but Masha had a curious and wild heart that could not be tamed. One day, she sat on Elder Mother's lap and told her that she needed to leave to see the world outside. She promised that she won't stray too far and that she will visit her often. "My heart is restless, Elder Mother. You must let me go." Elder Mother kissed Masha on her forehead and whispered her secret name into her furry ears. Masha nodded and accepted it. She knew the importance of this moment, for all cats had their secret names where their power lies. Then she packed a piece of cheese, a sprig of catnip, and a frozen mouse into a checkered red handkerchief as a parting gift. "Promise me that you will visit me at least twice between every full moon." Masha licked the Elder Mother's fingertips and rubbed against her ginger brother, who was snoozing by the fireplace. She left without turning back because she did not want them to see her tears. But once she was outside, she skipped all the way to the fields. She had a great many adventures since then and never forgot to visit the Elder Mother as promised. She always got her a gift: a mouse, a gopher snake, or a songbird. One time she even brought her an elusive live tarantula. Elder Mother was very pleased, but Masha grew old and her wanderings ceased. She found the greenhouse to be her perfect home. The farmer fed her and brushed her every day. He made a little bed out of rags and stuffed an old barrel with it. During summer, he rolled it out under the plum trees in the orchard, and when it got cold, he rolled it into the greenhouse so that Masha could be warm. Masha loved her farmer and her home. Her life was perfect, until the red fox came to visit Jellicles Greenhouse. Then everything changed. Kullanari was a red fox who lived on the edges of Jellicles' farm. He was small and energetic. He was also very, very smart. In fact, he was too smart for his own good. Even though foxes lived in groups, Kullanari was separated from his family because he was attracted to the chicken coop that the farmer kept at Jellicles' farm. Every day and every night, he circled the coop and drooled over the plump chickens that ran up and down their coop. My, oh my, what a dumb lot these birds are. And flightless, too. Kullanari decided that he has found his home and a pantry that would never be empty. Every time he took a chicken, the farmer replaced it. The chicken did not fly, and they were so easy that Kullanari was soon getting bored of his dinner. Unfortunately for him, the farmer figured out who was stealing his chickens. He installed a better fence and strengthened the defences of the chickens were now mocking Kullanari. Safe within their confines, they clucked derisively and strutted around purposefully, as though to mock the little red fox. But Kullanari knew that his smarts will eventually shut them up. But luck intervened, and he soon found a supply of food that magically seemed to appear in bowls near the greenhouse. "This will keep me alive while I figure a way to outsmart those dumb chickens." Some days it was just chicken with rice, but on other days there was juicy chunks of turkey and ground meat. There were bowls of cream and gelatinous broth that slid like silk down his throat. "I wonder who leaves their heavenly bowls of food for me?" Kullanari wondered loudly once. It was late summer, and the leaves were still on the tree branches. He flopped on the soft grass and rolled about happily. "Maybe I have a foxy godmother. It is known that they can bestow favours upon their favourite foxes." Kullanari chewed on a blade of grass thoughtfully. "I must be a favourite because I am so smart," he decided. He did not like it when he cannot figure out why things happen when they do. What he cannot understand confuses him, and whatever confuses him often made him nervous. So, dear reader, you can only imagine Kullanari's surprise and confusion when one fine day he spotted a fluffy orange ball emerge from the greenhouse and walk towards the overflowing bowl of tuna and shredded chicken studded with pieces of liver and heart. His bowl of food. Poor Kullanari. He did not have the time to feel nervous as he paced up and down, watching his little pile of yumness being gobbled by the orange beast. He considered the creature carefully. It is furry like me, but I am pretty sure it is not a fox. It has claws and teeth. Even though it is flightless too, it is certainly not a bird. Kullanari considered the situation with some concern. This was not a beast to be trifled with, even though it was much smaller than him. The creature seemed to be communicating with the farmer by bumping its forehead against his legs and making deep rumbling sounds from his throat. It did not seem fair because the farmer seemed to enjoy this interaction and even rewarded the beast with scritches under its chin. The farmer was always throwing things at Kullanari, sometimes even loud words and curses when Kullanari had tried to approach him to inquire about the barricades that separated him from his chicken dinner. Kullanari slunk behind the bushes to think and to come up with a brilliant plan. And one blustery fall evening, he jumped up high. He knew it. He had the perfect plan to occupy the warm barrel in the greenhouse and eat all of the moist, good-cooked food the farmer left in the bowl. Masha stretched her feet and licked the spaces between her paws. Oh my! What a fine rasping sound your tongue makes when you do that! Masha looked up with a startled look. Her ears were pinned back and the fur on her back started to bristle. Relax. It's just me. I am Kullanari. I have been here admiring your lovely coat. Masha looked at the strange beast suspiciously. He was an attractive one and had a coat that was close to hers in colouring. Are we related? We have the same coloured coats. Kullanari was stumped. Could they be? Can he claim familial ties to share the magic food bowl? No, we cannot be the same. Our faces are similar and we both have coats, but this one is so small and so different. We must be. Kullanari smiled his most sparkly smile. He paused for a second. Dear sister, we must be related. Can I snuggle next to you? It is so very cold out here. Of course, of course. Masha moved and allowed Kullanari to sit beside her. The old barrel was warm and comfortable. Kullanari had been out in the cold so long and had been thinking so hard that all he wanted to do was slip into a fox slumber and relax for a while. It wasn't too long before the smart fox extracted Masha's life story and her adventurous spirit and her relationship with the farmer, who, for some reason, seems to want to be generous enough with her to cook Masha's meals thrice a day. It is not fair. Why does the farmer despise me when he loves this much smaller creature? Kullanari stomped his feet and pattered around inside his head. Are we both not full of fur and of the same red-gold colour? Don't we both have claws and teeth? Don't we both hunger for the same plump chicken for our sustenance? Kullanari's mind wandered. He reined in his thoughts and turned on the charm with Masha. Sister Masha, clearly, your heart must yearn for adventures again. How could you live in a barrel inside this plastic-covered cave? He started to stir her thoughts. How you must want to climb trees and jump over streams. The mice, snakes and birds, they are all still out there, but poor you are still inside here, trapped within these rags and fed by the wily farmer who wants to imprison you with his cooked moist food. Masha looked a little confused. She liked it here, and the food wasn't bad even though it was not fresh. Kullanari continued talking. Sister Masha, you must leave as your heart guides you. You must climb the oaks and catch your own trout. A magnificent beast like you shouldn't be purring and bumping against hairy two legs. Before long, Kullanari had convinced Masha to leave her greenhouse barrel home and her chicken dinners to look for her adventures outside in the fields of Jellicles' farm. Poor Masha was no match for Kullanari's sharp wits. Before she knew it, Masha was saying goodbye to Kullanari and they nuzzled noses. "Sister Masha, do not worry. I will make sure that nobody will come by to occupy your smelly den." Masha hesitated before taking another step away from the greenhouse. The air was crisp and cold. But, Kullanari, the farmer—" I know, the red fox nodded his head. "I will make sure that he doesn't ever notice your absence and clean the bowl of aged moist food. He won't come looking for you." Masha turned and left, but not without some doubt in her heart. But soon enough, she was skipping down the path, happy to look for adventure. Her tail was still bent at the tip and waved like a flag. Her tail was broken when she was abandoned at the farm, but it had since healed. How lucky that I met Kullanari, to imagine that my days of adventure were over. It was getting dark and Masha was hungry. The farmer usually brought a bowl of food around this time. It was almost as if Masha had a clock inside her tummy which informed her of meal times. No, I have become too soft and dependent on the farmer. Masha's bulging belly bopped a little bit as she became breathless soon. Just ahead, she could see a flock of blackbirds in the field of buckwheat. She remembered them well. They were covered with feathers, but underneath all that, there was fresh, succulent food. Masha went into stealth mode, and with her belly to the ground, she inched closer to the birds. But Masha hadn't hunted in a while, and soon she became breathless. Her life in the cozy greenhouse had made the pads of her paws soft. The birds heard her wheezing and could spot her wiggling bum with the broken tail that looked like a flag even from a great distance. "Fat cat on the prowl!" they tittered. Poor Masha inched closer and closer, only to realize that the birds were waiting for her to arrive. They took over in one synchronized wave, leaving behind a hungry and embarrassed Masha. "At least there are no witnesses," she muttered to herself. Cold and hungry, Masha strode purposefully towards the stand of oak trees. She knew the trees and Blinky, the owl's hollow. It was an old haunt of hers, and it was one of the coziest tree hollows in Farm. She heard that Blinky now goes by another pretentious name, and hoped that his hollow hadn't changed. In one swift jump, she was climbing the tree trunk. Imagine Masha's surprise when she peeked into the hollow to find 3 young crows. 2 of them were huddled together and seemed to be looking at the horizon. Another was slumped against the furthest wall of the trunk's hollow and snoring gently. Both Masha and the birds were scared when they set eyes upon each other. Feathers and fur jumped off skins. Poor Masha fell to the ground. Even though the soft carpet of fallen oak leaves made the fall less unpleasant, it hurt. Cold, hungry and sore, not to mention embarrassed, Masha turned her thoughts to Kullanari. She could have been in a warm place with a full belly, brushed by the farmer in her barrel house. Thrice embarrassed now because she knew that the red fox had conned her. Masha growled and gnashed her teeth. She wondered for a moment if she should simply go to see Elder Mother, but decided that it was better that she return back home to her greenhouse barrel. Maybe she could stop by the stream and try to catch trout. She was hungry, after all. But she remembered that it was Kullanari who first suggested that she catch her own stream trout, and she violently shoved the thought away from her mind. She knew that she couldn't trust anything he had ever told her. She looked above and saw the stars twinkling. As if by magic, her heart was calm again, and the moon lit the path. She missed home. At a distance, she could see the light by the greenhouse, and she hurried down the long road. She could even see the farmer's silhouette, and soon she was rushing, running, and dashing towards her best friend and her only home. When she reached the greenhouse, she couldn't see the farmer. The food bowl was half full and was overturned. The ground around the greenhouse was disturbed and the plastic ripped. Masha slowed down and proceeded with much caution. Something must have happened here. On the other side, she could see the shadow of the farmer thrown on the plastic walls of the greenhouse. The farmer was moving slowly, and what was it that he was holding? Was it a stick? Was he going to attack her? Masha wrinkled her nose. It can't be. The farmer adored her. She slid under the plastic cover and stuck only her head inside. She could now see the barrel and the red fox cowering inside. He seemed scared. "Oh, Sister Masha, I am so happy to see you. I see that you have returned." "What happened, Kullanari?" "The farmer. He came to fill the bowl, and when I went to eat it, I did not notice that he was still around. And he whistled for you and you didn't come out. He saw me and thought that I did something to you. And And? Masha's flag-tipped tail thumped the ground hard and she could feel her annoyance raising. She had been replaying the tittering blackbirds and the undignified descent down Blinky's hollow. She knew that she had been made a fool by this cunning fox. Kullanari broke down into tears and hid his face between his front paws. "I am sorry. I am sorry. I thought I could make this my home and get some easy meals, but the farmer would never let me stay." "Ah, so you are saying that you plan to drive me from here with your untrue words." "I am sorry, Sister Masha. I thought that I was smarter than you." "Well, you are." "I made a fool of myself," Masha murmured to herself, but not so loud that Kullanari could hear her. Outside, the farmer was beating around the greenhouse with an ugly stick. "Come out! Come out, you rascally fox! My poor Masha! What did you do to her? Did you hurt her? Did you eat her? Come out! Come out!" The farmer was raging either from anger or from grief. Maybe it was both. Masha rolled her eyes. "Okay, fine, you stay here. But stay hidden, okay?" she whispered to Kullanari. She slid out from under the plastic and walked towards the farmer, purring and meowing at the same time. "Masha!" The farmer threw the ugly stick down and scooped Masha up. He buried his nose into her neck and started talking. Oh dear, Masha knew she had to up the ante. She increased the volume of her purring and ceased the meowing. She bumped her head onto his forehead repeatedly as a way to calm him down. When all of his smell was transferred to her, he finally dropped her to the ground. The farmer whipped out a fine brush from his back pocket and settled down beside her. He started brushing her soft golden-orange fur and Masha genuinely started purring, entirely pleased. When Masha came back to her barrel home, Kullanari was waiting for her. "Thank you for saving my life." "You can come any time, Kullanari, but leave your cunning out at the door. We have the same coloured coat, after all. You can share my warm home and food any time." Kullanari stepped out into the cold air and waved goodbye. They remained good friends ever since. Once in a while, Masha would let him snuggle with her, and very often, he came by to share her food. Sometimes, if one were to wander by Jellicles' farm, especially on full moon nights, they might spot a red fox and a ginger cat sitting together, gazing at the moon's reflection as the trout jump in and out of the creek's waters while telling each other tall tales and short poems. As to whether Kullanari truly left his cunning behind, well, that is another story entirely.